From WBGO, this is Newark Today, our monthly look at what's happening in and around New Jersey's largest city. And now, here's your host, David Cruz.
Thank you, Alex. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the show. We're glad you could join us tonight as we take a look at Mayor Ras Baraka's first 100 days in office. Want to try and fire up this sound?
City of Newark.
What are you doing now? Look at all the kids getting killed now. Look at all the innocent.
Let me just start that right all over.
What's his relationship with the gangs in the city of Newark?
What are you doing now? Look at all the kids getting killed now. Look at all the innocent bystanders getting killed. What are you doing?
Ras Baraka need to hire more cops.
I need the mayor to fix the school system.
Do more for senior citizens and the disabled.
Where's the future for the black man here in Newark, New Jersey? Gotta have jobs.
That is a small sampling of what's on the minds of some Newarkers we talked to this week. We are joined, as always, by Newark Mayor Ras Baraka. Mayor, welcome back.
Glad to be here.
So it's kind of an artificial landmark, 100 days. In the context of 4 years, it's like a millisecond. But I guess a good opportunity to take early stock of where the administration is headed and what kind of momentum it has. You're going to make a formal presentation to the community next week, right? You're working on a documentary, or a documentary is being made about you?
Well, it's more like a video.
Uh-huh.
But October the 15th at 6 p.m. at the Cityplex, we'll be having an event that's open to the public. It's free. You can come in and see everything that's been going on for the first 100 days.
So you're making a formal presentation on you're going to cover everything, economic development, crime, and the whole lot.
As much as we can.
All right, just a reminder, joining us tonight on our final segment around 8:40, we'll have reporters Matt Friedman of the Star-Ledger and Mark Bonamo of Politicker and Jay. We'll talk about the upcoming November elections for U.S. Senate, Congress, County Executive, and more. Pure politics at 8:40. If we have time, we'll get Mayor Baraka to give us his picks before then. You said repeatedly, Mayor, that the biggest task of these first 100 days was to get this budget crisis handled. And this week you got a unanimous vote on the City Council for budget amendments that bring the budget basically into balance, yes?
Yes. Next week we have to get a final vote from the state local finance board, but I don't anticipate any roadblocks there.
And we'll talk a little bit about why you need that vote in a second, but you started with a budget deficit of around $90 million. And then pared it down to $30 million, right?
Right.
And as you know what they say, it's that last $30 million that will kill you. At the risk of putting our listeners to sleep with a budget discussion, how were you able to get there?
Well, first it was, congratulations and thank yous to a bunch of smart people in city government who worked hard in Office of Management and Budget, Finance, Human Resources. Everyone got together. Our help from the different business community folks that participated in this, Chris Cooper, who was a part of it as well. We first had to amortize the first $30 million, which means we had to spread it across a few years, 10 years, in order to pay a smaller amount over a period of time.
Right.
The state allowed us to do that. We couldn't do that without the state's permission. That immediately triggered by law state supervision because we asked to do that. And these are many things that we had to do because we basically had no time. Budget was due months and months ago. We are at the end of the year trying to balance and pass a budget. So that's what the first initial money we got. We also had what was called a rental car tax that was used for development that we pulled in-house and put in the budget as well and used to help us close some of the issues that we had. We had to sell.
And that was a rental car tax that people paid when they rented their car, and that went supposedly, or at the time, specifically to development projects?
Right, absolutely.
And coming now into the general fund?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And we also sold some city property. We got, we are estimating about $5 million from those sales. We, got permission from the state to defer some payments into specific funds that, we'll have to pay down the line or kind of figure out how much we really have to pay. Some of it was reserves. We were able to, get more money from our reserve uncollected taxes. We got about $10 million from there. I mean, you go on and on and on. We stopped a lot of spending around issues that were non-essential, to help us get to the number that we needed, which was $10 million, which was what the state was willing to offer us.
Right, and you had originally gone in and asked for $30 million in assistance from the state, and they came down to 10. They came in with 10.
Yes.
I assume that you're not happy with that, right? I mean, you wanted more, obviously.
Of course, you want more. It'd have been less difficult for us, but it took a lot of work, and we were able to make it happen by the grace of God and some very smart people in City Hall. We were able to, achieve that goal, and we have to begin focusing on 2015's budget, which is not a walk in the park.
Austerity, austerity, austerity. Yes.
Yes, austerity and creativity.
Yeah. And pretty much cuts across the board, every department, right?
Right. We had to cut every department without trying to lay people off. We had to cut non-essential spending, contracts, different things of that nature, make it, people have to function bare bones all the way through. Hopefully we won't have to do that next year, but it's going to be difficult as well next year. So this isn't, we're not out of the woods completely.
Right. We got an email. Our email here, by the way, is Newark Today at wbgo.org. This is Joe Smith. He asks, do you feel that the Christie administration has done enough to support your administration and the people of Newark? Loaded question right at the top.
Well, it's obvious that the governor and I disagree on things like school and education, and I don't know if there'll ever be a bridge there. But I do think that, the state and the governor has been helpful around police, the state police, around specific issues as it relates to allowing us to do some specific things with the budget and some economic development issues that I think that we're going to be able to work out and get to finish some more development downtown and in the communities. So I am optimistic about that, as well as optimistic around some of the school construction stuff that I think we'll be able to find some common ground around trying to get some of these schools built and repaired.
So it's a little different, right? I mean, your relationship with the mayor and your relationship with the state. It's really kind of two different things, right?
Right, absolutely, right? So there's some specific issues, the governor and I are going to disagree upon. We politically, different folks.
Right.
So it's obvious and almost inevitable that we will disagree. But, there are always opportunities for us to work together and to agree around governing the city, and the city is a part of the state of New Jersey, and I'm optimistic about, especially around some of the budget discussions that we've had recently, optimistic about his desire to help the city economically and to become independent.
Yeah. So, listeners, the mayor wants to know how he's doing. We want to take your calls and get your opinion on how Mayor Baraka is holding it down over the first 100. Our number here is 1-800-499-9246. That's 1-800-499-9246. Let's hear your thoughts on the direction the city's taking in the first 100 days. Is it what you expected? Do you want to give the mayor a grade on his first 100 days? You can do that. 1-800-499-9246. You can also tweet at Newark Today and message us on the Facebook page. On this budget, there's good news in that there are no layoffs. And for the city's workforce, that was a big thing because they have been pretty much decimated.
Right.
The city's workforce.
Right.
People want to make sure they have a place to go, and it's important for morale.
Right.
And you promised city workers that they were not going to have to bear the brunt this time around.
Right. And we did our best to make sure that didn't take place, that we cut other areas that did not affect their job. Going forward, there's some issues that we're going to have to deal with in terms of our over-bloated healthcare system here in the city, some issues around, pension, all kinds of things that we're going to have to begin to work out and deal with. But ultimately, the answer is not those things. The answer is really about innovation and creativity, growing the city and putting people in the homes.
Because the more active this economy is, the more tax revenue the city gets, the more people are able to spend money, et cetera.
Right, and the more money we have in our coffers, and we able to provide quality service to people without cutting service.
Yeah, but as it stands right now, workers are going to have to do more with less, right? Use both sides of the paper and recycle
Right.
and all of that.
That's right.
They were kind of feeling like they were already doing more with less.
They were.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, they absolutely were doing more with less. I mean, most people here in the city, a lot of people are doing more with less. And, we have to congratulate and be thankful for each other for the work that people do. There's some very, diligent and committed people in this city that work for the city government that make sure that we get our services with the bare minimum that they have to work with.
Yeah. On the other hand, now taxpayers are going to have to pay close to $300 per year in a tax increase, right? Is the message here that it could have been worse?
Oh, absolutely. The tax rate is still the same. So the tax rate is what it was when it was first proposed before we came in. Mm. So we didn't touch the tax rate at all. The tax rate was that way before we took office, and we left it alone. So we didn't lower it, and we didn't increase the tax rate. So it would have been that way whether we had the kind of budget deficit or not. The tax rate is going to increase incrementally every year anyway, and we didn't touch that at all.
Here is a tweet from J. Maxman. He says, or asks, does the budget include all the money they will be paying? I'm assuming that they is the city, will be paying to landlords in tax appeals because of rent control laws.
No, I mean, I think that might be from a landlord. That question,
right.
Yeah. I mean, we get is a rush of building owners and apartment owners that are up in arms these days because of the new rent control ordinance that they think does not favor them. The city is made up of 75% people who pay rent, ultimately, and people in Newark, 50% of their salary is spent on housing, on rent, which is ridiculous, which leaves them no money to do other kind of things like invest in our economy. And we have to be fair. I mean, in Newark, the apartment owners, the building owners get a 9% guaranteed profit. If you're a developer, the most profit you make is about 4%. Yeah. So you get a 9% kind of guarantee. When you go into business in a free market, you take a risk, right? What we're saying to you is when you go in business in Newark, in the apartment business, in the building business, you have a guaranteed profit. And if you don't make that profit, you get to raise rents based on that the fact that you haven't made that profit. So I don't see it being this kind of decimation of the landlords as they're trying to create these horror stories. I just don't see that.
So did you say 75%?
70, 75 is that the number is really, really high in the 70s of the amount of people who actually rent in the city.
You talked recently about setting a tone in these first 100 days. What was the tone, and do you think that you've achieved that tone?
Sure. I think that we are closer. There's always a lot more we can do, and we always can get better at the things that we are attempting. But I think one of the tones that we try to set is that we want to be as transparent as possible, that we are creating a vehicle for people to be involved in city government. We had as many town hall meetings as we possibly could. We're going to have some more in about a month. We're going to have more town hall meetings. We had a community meeting the other night, as a matter of fact, over at King's. We had one in the West Ward, basically about model neighborhood initiatives that we get ready to start in communities to drive down crime, to deal with abandoned properties, vacant lots, to invest in those communities with economic development, put people in those homes. And we picked two areas to start out with to put all our resources or focus our deterrence. And so we think we set a tone with the kind of community involvement. We set a tone with the discipline that we want to instill around the workers in City Hall about we're here to service the community. Our job is to make sure that the people's lives in this city is better than it was before they met us. And I think we've set that tone. We've had large citywide employee meetings. We have another one coming up in October. We put boxes in front of the doors in City Hall that people can put their opinions and how we're servicing them, ideas about what's going on. We put it on our website. And we have many other kinds of applications, technological applications that allow people to talk to city government. Neighbor Next Door, the 311 app. So all kinds of opportunities for residents to talk to the individuals in City Hall.
What kind of ideas have come in? Is there something that you said, oh, great, I'm going to implement that, or something that was like, man, you crazy?
Well, it's a little both, right? So, I mean, some of the great things were, a portal on our website that speaks directly to the things that we're accomplishing or programs that exist in the city where parents can say, I need to look here, I need to put my kid in this program, things that are happening after school, people looking for housing, all kinds of things that the city is doing and partnering with universities, nonprofits, that there's a space available where residents could navigate and be able to do that without coming to City Hall talking to individuals. That was a excellent suggestion we got a while ago that we began. And as a matter of fact, I heard it again at a Leadership Newark kind of a discussion. So these are things that we are embracing and putting in place immediately. Even the help desk downstairs where folks walk into City Hall, that there's somebody there to assist them. So we added a help desk with 2 computers that people can use themselves to find out where they're going, what they should be doing. So those specific things are immediate things that we got done.
Right. Let's hear from some Newarkers out on the street as we wait to hear from you on the phone at 1-800-499-9246. You're listening to Newark Today on Jazz 88 and WBGO.org. David Cruz and Newark Mayor Ras Baraka waiting on your calls at 1-800-499-9246, talking about the first 100 days of the Baraka administration. And let's hear from Frank, who is out on Broad Street.
My name is Frank Cunningham. Frank Cunningham from Summit, New Jersey. What is he doing for the minorities in the city? I know they had a lot of things with construction that's coming into the city that they're supposed to be bringing in maybe 30% of the people that's living in the city to have them working. And I know I went to a meeting one time. They were saying they had this documented, but it hasn't been enforced yet. So there's no sense of having it documented if it's not enforced.
Frank's one of those guys who works in Summit, works in Newark, lives in Summit. So jobs,
A lot of people.
Yeah. Jobs is your other top priority, you said. Let's talk about these first source agreements, which is what I think that Frank was referring to. We always hear a lot about these first source agreements, but we never really know how enforced they are. And I know when I spoke to your chief of staff, he said that one of the things that you all wanted to do was to get those first source agreements enforced. How have you been able to do that, if you have been able to do that?
First, I just want to give credit to our Deputy Mayor for Full Employment, Rahman Muhammad. They've connected over 400 people to private sector jobs already in less than 100 days. They've seen over 2,000 people. They've put over 200 people in training programs that will get them jobs. We got folks in the Sonic, 100% Newark employees. We got a commitment from ShopRite. We're doing a press conference tomorrow morning where they're going to train 300 Newark residents to prepare maybe 250 of them for jobs that are available there. We have been very aggressive in getting Newarkers hired. We hired we brought in a what you call a headhunter in Newark Works that begins to look for jobs for professional folks who just came from college, who have degrees, who are looking for professional kind of jobs. So we added that to the Newark Works part. We also are engaging with a nonprofit that's from San Francisco who really did work in the Asian community around the same first source ordinances that exist in California around the Asian communities having access to jobs. They're doing a study for us here to justify a law that we're going to pass very shortly that puts teeth in our first source ordinances that exist here in Newark that would tell folks that one of the penalties is, first you have to hire these amount of people. If you choose not to hire them, besides the penalties that you have, there's an option to put money in a fund that is designed to train folks in around construction and those kinds of things to help us prepare people for the jobs that are growing in our city. And we're doing the same thing around public contracts. So any kind of public contract that people get in the city, in housing, they have this kind of Section 3 rule that says that you have to employ residents of the housing authority. We're going to do something like that for the public contracts in the city of Newark. And, the good thing about that, the federal government is attached to that as well. So, there's opportunities for us to get more Newarkers hired, but we're moving very aggressively in that direction, very aggressively.
All right, you're listening to Newark Today on Jazz 88 and WBGO.org. David Cruz, Mayor Ras Baraka with us. When we come back, we'll talk about something we have yet to talk with the mayor about, really, public safety. And we'll take your calls at 1-800-499-9246. That's 1-800-499-9246. Stay tuned.
I'm Alan Wolper. Join me every Tuesday night for Conversations with Alan Wolper. Audio biographies of people whose lives and ideas are on the cutting edge. Conversations with Alan Wolper, Tuesday night at 7:30 on WBGO, The Jazz Source.
Sports Jam with Doug Doyle is fun. Just ask bassist Christian McBride.
Dougie Fresh, what's happening?
Sports Jam is where people like Gabby Douglas speak up.
I want to be a role model to everyone.
Some of my guests want to talk about the music, too, like football legend Jim Brown.
Jazz is America.
Sports Jam now every Wednesday night at 7:30 on WBGO, The Jazz Source.
This is Newark Today. Got questions for our guests? Call us at 1-800-499-9246.
Welcome back to the program. David Cruz, Ras Baraka, Jazz 88, and WBGO.org. Plus you calling us at 1-800-499-9246. Let me get a phone call in here. We have Gabar from Newark. Gabar, welcome to the program.
How you doing?
Very well. You have a question for the mayor?
Yes. My question to Ras Baraka is that how is it you're going to bring about unity among blacks in Newark?
All right, Mayor. I mean, is there not that at the present moment?
Well, I don't know if there's unity among anybody at the extent that we need it.
Right.
But, I understand that maybe he's talking about the kind of violence that's going on in the neighborhoods, in the community. And we are moving in those directions. We have call-ins that we establish, and we're going to talk to folks about the kind of damage that they're creating in the community, kind of using the strategy of, that we use in school, restorative practices, restorative circles, to get people in front of folks in neighborhoods who are victimized by the kind of violence that takes place in their lives in the community, and get ready to tell people, look, this is how you affected my life, as a condition for them to re-enter into our society. There's many different avenues like that we're creating. We also have many opportunities for us to get together. I just got together with a few of the mayors, African-American mayors in this area, to begin talking about how do we partner with each other and begin to stop some of the ills that are taking place in our community, bring our neighborhoods and community together at the same time, providing services for everybody in our city.
All right, that leads us into the conversation we were going to have about public safety, still the biggest issue facing the city, Mayor. 50-some-odd murders so far this year. I think you're slightly behind last year's pace, but obviously unacceptably high. I think you would agree with that.
Absolutely.
And it feeds this perception of crime from, I guess, internally, people know that this crime is black-on-black crime. It's young men. It's usually gang or drug-related. But it perpetuates this perception of the city that it is violent and that it is dangerous. Always, when, frankly, for a visitor per se, it is as safe as any other city, large city in New Jersey.
Well, I do want to say, and I really hate to talk about crime numbers, one, because you get stuck with them.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, we're down in almost every area. The police department is doing the best that they can with the resources that they have. We have about 70% of officers on our force on the street. We just hired 36 new police officers. We're going to bring on another 15. We're going to have a very aggressive hiring kind of plan going forward. We talking about a few demotions, and I think it needs to get out there. Folks are putting it on the internet. They're saying all kinds of things that we're laying people off, which is not true. I mean, the police department is top heavy, and we are working on putting more officers in the street. We don't need more officers behind desks. We need them out in the street. And so that may mean we have to demote a few people. Right now, we're talking about 7 people, 8 people. The way the story is being told is like we demoting 5,000 people. We're talking about 7, 8 superior officers.
Who's trying to tell that story? The union?
Probably the superior officers, right? So folks we need to level out the police force, have more walking patrols, have more police officers out of their cars, talking to folks in the neighborhood. The research shows when the police have a better relationship with the community, that the policing is actually better and more effective. That's why we're doing our community walks every Tuesday and Friday in the neighborhoods. That's why we're talking to people more. That's why we're going to have training So we're going to do the necessary things to get our police department alongside of the community, not on top of the community.
Right. So folks listening right now, 1-800-499-9246. If public safety is a concern of yours, we have just about 15 minutes left with Mayor Ras Baraka. 1-800-499-9246. Have you felt the difference since the new administration came into town? And have you felt the difference maybe since there's been new cops or more cops out on the beat? 1-800-499-9246. So now the department is about to enter into this consent decree whereby a federal monitor is going to be brought in to initiate some reforms that a lot of people have been calling for since 1967.
Right.
So the U.S. Attorney said there'd be a monitor in place by mid-September. What is the status of that right now?
Well, the ink is not dry. We're still finishing negotiation with them, and it'll be done very shortly. We're having a meeting, as a matter of fact, in October to talk about civilian oversight, which is going to happen. We already are poised to purchase cameras to put on police officers' lapels during stops. We're going to purchase those collectively with Jersey City and Patterson to get a cheaper price to buy in bulk. We already signed an agreement with them, a procurement agreement that allows us to buy collectively, a shared service agreement. We, the monitor will probably be in place definitely before the new year. We have to find the money to pay them, but
right.
Yeah.
Who pays them? You?
Yeah, the city is responsible. The federal government gives us mandates that they don't pay for.
Right. Unfunded mandates, they like to call it. So someone said to me the other day that the practices at the Newark Police Department over the years that are detailed in this U.S. Attorney report, which triggered this whole talk of a monitor, that those practices are as responsible for the city's crime problem as anything else. Is there any logic in that to you?
Sure. I mean, the research shows that. So research shows us that the better the relationship between the community and the police is, the better the policing is. I mean, you get better intelligence, you get more information, people are more cooperative, and they trust the police. When people trust, when they have trust in the agency that's in charge, when they have trust and faith in the leadership, then they respond and act differently. I think that's incredibly important for us. And when police behave badly, it puts a bad kind of moniker on the entire police department as a whole and on city government, because the police represent city government, right? So it makes it difficult to do real good policing in an environment like that.
Let me hear from one Newarker who's talking a little bit specifically about this.
My name is Tawana. Why are the police officers that's patrolling the predominantly black neighborhoods in Newark, or majority of them are white when they don't live here? It's like, to me, you have a better understanding from the people when you come from the people. They're hired to protect us, but in actuality, they'll act like they're more afraid of us.
There was a report out last week, I think, by the website 538.com. I don't know if you're familiar with it. It named Jersey City and Newark as 1 and 2 of the municipalities where the police least reflected the race and ethnicity of its residents.
Right.
It's a critical component to have a city's cops reflect its people.
I absolutely agree. But more importantly, for them to be empathetic and sympathetic with the people and the conditions that they live in, and feel like they're there to serve them, not occupy those neighborhoods. And that takes training, no matter what unfortunately, research is showing not just cops that don't look like the residents, the cops that actually look like them as well. You get complaints about those officers too, because you get into a kind of culture of occupation, and so we need training. Officers need training. And unfortunately, all of the officers are not like that, but a few who do these bad acts set a kind of moniker and culture for everyone else, and it's important. I mean, it's important for us to fight and go against that kind of grain. That's what we're attempting to do. And I think one of the problems is also the law that we have that says, you have to live in Newark a year in order to be a police officer here. So as soon as you get inducted into the academy, while you're going through training, then once you become an officer, you basically can leave. A lot of folks who are not from the area, from the community, get a home or rent an apartment, 2 or 3 of them together, stay there until the academy is over and the time is up, and they go back to where they really, really live. That's unfortunate, because what it's really doing is undermining the process and disallowing Newark residents from becoming police officers or for firemen, for that matter, in the city. And so we already proposed to the League of Municipalities an ordinance or a law that would change on the state level that would allow us to change it at the local level that says we want them to live in the city at least 5 years.
Let me get Saeed in here. Saeed has a question specifically about that residency. Saeed, welcome to the program.
Thank you. I have to be quick here, and I have to go pray to Salah. How you doing, Ras? That's a perfect segue. In Detroit, they have a program in which the officers, a lot of the boarded houses and things like that, as you know, there they have a big problem. But we have a problem here also in the city of Newark of boarded houses and things like that.
Right.
Why not have a program such as what they have? What they have is the officers basically get a major discount on the houses in particular areas if they just live there. You know, the officers live there, they get a major discount, or I'm not sure how they work it.
Yeah.
But that would kill a problem twofold. You have the on the beat police officer getting to know the neighborhood, and then you have that presence there where you feel comfortable and things can get back to where they need to be, and also the police is living in the neighborhood, which you just spoke about.
Yeah, right. I absolutely agree.
Saeed,
with that.
thanks for your call.
That's a great idea. As a matter of fact, we were trying to move in that direction around land banking. We were going to land bank a lot of the properties, move in that direction, not just with police, but with also fires, teachers, primary care physicians. We were focusing heavily on. Unfortunately, the governor vetoed that, but we are trying to work around that and do it in more creative kind of ways where the city does have property, where we will begin discussing cordoning off a couple pieces of those property and saying this is for police, this is for fire. We'll allow them to buy it at a specific rate if they choose to live in the community 5 to 7 years. So we are thinking in that direction, and I'm glad that the residents are moving and thinking in that direction as well.
Right. One of the things people have been calling for is the creation of a civilian complaint review board,
right?
Specifically one with teeth. Here's Udi Ofer. He's the president or executive director of the NJ,
I'm sure.
New Jersey ACLU, talking about what he thinks the Civilian Complaint Review Board should look like.
That agency needs to have the power to take that complaint, investigate it thoroughly, come out with its findings, and then issue discipline. And that discipline must be decided by that independent agency, not by the police director, not by the mayor of the city of Newark, and not by the Internal Affairs Bureau.
In a meeting with the Star-Ledger editorial board, you seem to be backing away from a Civilian Complaint Review Board with the kind of teeth that Udi's talking about. You said, and I think I'm quoting here, we have to find some kind of hybrid that would allow the organization, and in this case I think you mean the PD, right, to be able to live in the state statute and have subpoena power at the same time. I guess there's a union component.
Yeah, I'm talking about the oversight. But I want to welcome Udi to that struggle, right?
Yeah.
So because we in Newark have been fighting for a review board a bunch of decades. Since, I was a kid coming from Howard University down here marching for civilian complaint review boards with the death of Danette Daniels on Clinton Avenue in Chadwick. And, Udi and the rest of those guys was nowhere in the town.
Right.
But at the end of the day, what I'm saying is that, yes, the organization, the Police Review Board, has to have subpoena power, but he knows, just like I know, that the state does not allow us to give organizations subpoena power, but we're going to find a way to make the organization that we have subpoena power. That's number one. Number two, there are union and civil service laws that allows police officers to have due process, right? Like any worker, to have due process. So the agency itself can't tell a police officer you're fired without the police officer having due process, right? Or going through a hearing. And if we're going to make the Civilian Review Board or civilian oversight the hearing component of that process, then that's a discussion that we have to have with the unions in order to make these things happen. So I wish it was as black and white as I thought it was when I was 21 years old, yelling that we should have a Civilian Review Board. I do think, however, we can get there, but we have to get there through hybrid first, and then finally what we need, we have to get there through getting the organization civilian review power through the council and having investigatory powers as well. And then we're going to have to talk about the discipline component,
right?
Because police officers like any worker, has a right to due process, right? So I have to agree and support workers' right to due process as well.
All right, let's get one more call in here. We have about 5 minutes left with the mayor. It's 1-800-499-9246. If you call in, you got to be quick with your questions. So let's get Jack from Newark on the line. Jack, welcome.
Hi, thank you so much.
Got a question for the mayor, Jack?
Yes, I'm calling to ask the mayor about what he plans to do for recent college graduates that are returning to Newark that don't have actual opportunities for employment or even just for internships during the summer months as well as during the year.
All right, Jack, thanks for your question.
Well, I spoke about earlier, so our Newark Works usually caters to people at entry-level jobs. We just put in what we call a headhunter whose job it is to focus on college grads, professional area folks. 'Cause usually businesses go to Craigslist and search engines like that to look for employees. We are going to provide that service for internships, for employment at higher levels that are not just entry-level positions, professional level jobs. So we're moving along those lines, as a matter of fact.
Because I think there's this perception of this city. I mean, so many perceptions, right?
Right.
But the fact that there are thousands, tens of thousands of professionals with college degrees and all sorts of, advanced degrees that would make us look foolish who live in this city.
Absolutely. And I think we need a whole entire campaign, man. It's just a rebranding campaign to show people who Newarkers are.
Yeah.
Because I really don't believe that they have any concept at all of who lives and works and plays in this city.
All right, let's get one more piece of sound in here from a Newarker. This one is anonymous.
He got his foot in the door by saying, I had a gang ceasefire in 2004. It's 10 years later, 2014. What are you doing now? Look at all the kids getting killed now. Look at all the innocent bystanders getting killed. What are you doing? Where's the gang ceasefire now? That's what I want to know.
I mean, during the campaign, a lot was made about your ability to reach out to those involved in gang life. Are you making any other inroads in there? Is it an initiative on your part?
And we're still doing that, right? So first of all, NVRI and Rutgers University and the police have been working in parts of the city with parolees, probation folks, ex-gang members now, bringing them to the table, giving them resources, talking to them about the error and the ill of their ways, and giving them alternatives and saying, listen, if you continue this path, you're going to go to jail or death, but we have other opportunities for you to pull you in other direction. That was before Ras Baraka became the mayor. They're doing that. So we're supporting that effort, and we're trying to expand it. So the mayor is going to do a larger call in this month to get more folks to the table and begin to put that message out to as many people as we possibly can. So we are going to do that, and we are making inroads. That's why we got more guns off the street, shootings are down, murders are down. I just don't like to talk about it because I think that one murder is too many, right? And I don't want to brag about going from 111 to 60 because that's like saying we had 700 murders, now we have 5.
Right, and those, right, exactly. Yeah. So in our next segment, we're going to have Matt Friedman of the Star-Ledger and Mark Bonamo of Politicker on. We're going to be talking pure politics, so I want to make sure I get your opinion on upcoming races to the extent that we can in about a minute and 15 seconds. You are making endorsements in the U.S. Senate race? Cory Booker or Jeff Bell?
Senator Booker is going to win, and I would prefer Booker to be the senator than Jeff Bell any day. So
I'm not sure that qualifies as a ringing endorsement, but it's an
I'm
endorsement.
going to vote for him.
Right.
So, I mean, to me, there's really no kind of contest or discussion
between those two.
Yeah, and I'm a Democrat.
Is he coming to campaign with you?
Who?
Senator Booker. Is he coming to Newark?
Time will tell. He'll be here. He'll be here in Newark.
And county exec? County executive?
Well, I don't know nobody's running against him. Does he got any opponents?
There's a Republican, technically speaking.
Oh yeah, I don't know anybody that's running against him. So.
Another ringing endorsement from Mayor Ras Baraka. Okay, Mayor, thank you very much, sir. Appreciate it. Right. You're listening to Newark Today on Jazz 88 and WBGO.org. I'm David Cruz. When we come back, politics with Politicker's Mark Bonamo and the Star-Ledger's Matt Friedman. Stay tuned, Mayor. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Julie Dorio. Here's what's coming up on tomorrow night's WBGO Journal. It's Poetry Month in Newark, and as his first 100 days in office come to a close, Mayor Ras Baraka kicked off the season with a reading of one of his own poems.
Walk on, black women, walk on. Let the world dance to your music, hug yourself each daybreak. See yourself in all things majestic, walk through life as you are.
The new rabbi at a synagogue in Westport, Connecticut calls himself the most unorthodox Orthodox rabbi you'll ever meet. Greg Wall is an accomplished jazz saxophonist and uses his music to connect with his congregation. John Kalish has the story on the self-proclaimed jazz rabbi. And Doug Doyle chats with actors Ellen McLaughlin and John Bolger, the stars of the new George Street Playhouse production of Outside Mullingar.
It will surprise you. I mean, it is not a conventional love story.
All that and more coming up tomorrow night at 7:30 on WBGO and WBGO.org.
You're listening to Newark Today. Call us with your questions at 1-800-499-9246.
Welcome back to the program. You're listening to Newark Today on Jazz 88 and WBGO.org. Joining us now to handicap the races coming up in November, we have Matt Friedman of the Star-Ledger and Mark Bonamo of Politicker and Jay. Gents,
good to be here.
Thank you very much for joining
Thanks for having us.
So I guess the premier race is incumbent Senator Cory Booker and Jeff Bell. Matt, it's going to be close, right?
Yeah, anyone's race.
What does Booker get out of winning by 13 points, if anything?
I think, well, he gets 6 years, right? I mean, 6 years is a long time to entrench yourself.
Yeah.
I think the amazing thing here is that you had, he basically laid down and was really heavily criticized for letting Steve Lonigan walk all over him and make the race much more competitive than it should have been in a state like this. Steve Lonigan was a real firebrand. Now you have Jeff Bell, this just as conservative as Steve Lonigan, but with a very different approach, a much more gentlemanly, a much more grandfatherly figure. And Booker is just beating him up.
Isn't that ironic? I was noticing that and have been noticing that because everything that Booker puts out is an attack on everything from Bell's homophobia to his crazy, wacky ideas about the gold standard. It's almost, like you said, the exact opposite.
And I think you see the difference in, Booker has a different campaign manager, and I think they had a different, I think they learned a lesson from just last year.
Why is he beating up on poor, defenseless sort of Jeff Bell?
I think it's because he doesn't want to make the same mistake he did last time with Steve Lonigan. He doesn't want Lonigan to creep up on him if he doesn't run as an aggressive campaign. An anecdote about how much more aggressive the campaign is, Brendan Gill, the Essex County freeholder and Montclair Democratic chairman, who's his campaign manager.
Right, Booker's campaign manager.
He was called out by Mr. Bell to debate me. If Senator Booker is going to debate you, you can debate me. Brendan Gill actually told me he almost did debate him one night in a restaurant. He was late coming back from Trenton. He was going to walk into the restaurant and meet him face forward right there in the middle of this restaurant, sponsored by the Montclair Republicans, a rally. Just let's get it on. Let's do it. Far different from the last time against Mr. Lonigan.
Much more aggressive. I guess he needs that. So what is the implication statewide, if there is one at all?
Well, if Bell were to be the winner in this race, I think the sky would pretty much fall on Trenton. Yeah. Otherwise, this is really, it's hard to talk about it as a snoozer. The implication is that we can settle whether the gold standard is a winning campaign issue. We can continue. I guess this will be until 2018 will be the next Senate race after this. So we'll have 44 years since a Republican was elected to the Senate from New Jersey. Honestly, there's just not that much to say. It will show that New Jersey is a traditionally blue state.
And at least on the national map, there'll be one Senate seat in a year where the Senate is definitely up for grabs that will still definitely stay in the blue category.
So Booker for vice president, anybody?
Well, he says no, but what does that mean really at this point? I certainly think that when it comes time, his name will be in the mix.
In the mix, right, for vice president?
I think so.
Yeah. So, all right, Essex County, you heard these quasi-ringing endorsements from Mayor Baraka, first saying that he would vote for Cory Booker, and then also saying that he's shrugging and saying, I'll vote for Essex County Executive Joe DiVincenzo. there was this sense that DiVincenzo might face some kind of a challenge, but nothing appeared.
If he was going to face a challenge, it was going to be in the Democratic primary, and that never happened. He consolidated, his support. The backlash. What's he going to say? He endorsed Christie, but almost every other Democrat with power in the state just sat back and let Christie run over Bono, even if they didn't formally endorse him. So what are they going to say, really?
And somebody from DiVincenzo's campaign said to me, "Oh, look how much Christie hurt us." He was being sarcastic, but there was no blowback. There isn't. But let's say, but if DiVincenzo ever sets his sights on higher office, I just can't imagine him getting through a Democratic primary after that. Because when the real party faithful vote and they actually have a choice, he's not getting very far.
It's also interesting to me that a normally fractious Democratic Party, particularly in North Jersey, there was talk of Millie Silva moving to Montclair, the lieutenant gubernatorial candidate for the Democrats with Barbara Bono. She didn't make a move. All these other Democrats who talk in whispered tones against Joe D. also didn't make a move.
We can take some of your calls for our political experts, Matt Friedman of the Star-Ledger and Mark Bonamo of PoliticerNJ.com. Our number here is 1-800-499-9246. That's 1-800-499-9246. So this Christie effect, I mean, he's hardly ever here, but all we can ever do is talk about Chris Christie.
Yeah, I mean,
does he have any impact on any of these races? It seems like he's focused elsewhere.
Yeah, as usual, even when he tries to have a positive impact on a race here, he doesn't seem to have much. Then again, I don't know how hard he really tries. But he's running for president already. Yeah, it's happening right now. We can stop playing the game of guessing will he or won't he. He is, and he's doing it, and that's why he's. I think he spends about a third of his time out of state now. It's interesting to see where he's going, who he's campaigning for. A lot of time in New Hampshire with a quote-unquote no-hope, candidate for governor up there, and a fair amount of time in Pennsylvania, where Governor Corbett is certainly favored to lose his re-election. I think that what's interesting, though, is while he's doing this, and he's getting back the sort of national love from the national pundits, especially the Republican ones, but really all of them. And no one's really examining how he's doing in New Jersey right now, both in terms of just his approval ratings and in terms of the kind of, the budget mess and all the other problems we have at home. None of that seems to be a topic of conversation in the national media.
Yeah, people always say, be wary of a second term. Be careful what you wish for because you might just get it. And second terms are often disastrous for any politician, and in this case, Christie has also taken a hit.
Yeah, but it's interesting that the things that could potentially come back to bite him in a second term, particularly the ongoing Bridgegate investigations, don't seem to be sticking as much. But in recent polling, people are noticing how often he's out of the state. You're far more likely to see Chris Christie not on a Jersey campaign trail, but in Connecticut or in Florida or Wisconsin. And people know there's still real structural problems in the state that, as a result of the governor often being absent, may not be getting addressed as they should.
Yeah, and speaking of Bridgegate, I think a lot of people underestimate how much this has hurt him, because it's not just about, I think pretty much everyone believes that there's never going to be, no one's going to indict Christie for shutting down the George Washington Bridge. The chances of that seem very unlikely.
About as likely as Jeff Bell winning U.S.
Right,
Senate,
exactly.
Right? Pretty much.
Maybe even worse. But I think the idea is it's completely changed how a lot of people view him. A lot of things that didn't stick to him before, he was really Teflon before, but a lot of the negative things that didn't stick before do stick now. People are, at least especially in this state, are taking another look at him and a bit more critically of his record.
Even in terms of, I think, of his national arc, and when Rudy Giuliani unsuccessfully tried to run for president in 2008, he was coming off being the hero of 9/11. Christie's story was going to be, I'm the hero of Hurricane Sandy. And all the events that have happened since then, including Bridgegate, diminishes that effect.
Do you think he crashes and burns like Giuliani crashed and burned?
Well, I don't want to go that far to predict that. I think I'll get in a little bit of trouble. But I'll tell you that the budget mess, the fact that we're probably going to need to see a tax increase to fund the Transportation Trust Fund, that looks like it's going that way.
A gas tax, you mean?
Yeah, and you're not going to be able to do that without the governor's assent. I don't think he's going to say, okay, legislative Republicans, the one time you get to override me is now for a tax increase.
Right.
So I think that in a primary, it's going to be really hard to get past a lot of these issues, a lot of the spending issues, taxes, budget messes, downgrades. Those are going to be really, really tough issues in a Republican primary.
I think it's also interesting that he picked Jamie Foxx to potentially preside as a head of the Department of Transportation over a potential gas tax, because I think he's trying to rebuild the idea of his bipartisan bona fides, that I can be bipartisan. I will bring back somebody who's considered to be very effective, who had been in the McGreevey administration, who would work for Senator Torricelli, to get something done that structurally New Jersey most likely needs to get done.
And also, Matt, he is all over Camden. He's like the mayor of Camden suddenly, and he's going to be speaking, I guess, next week or the week after at the NAACP convention in New Jersey. I mean, that's a serious fishing expedition into what is not his base.
And all the drug stuff.
Yes,
as
right.
well. Of course, Camden in his first term too was consistently going to Camden, and you kind of see the Newark Ross Dana Red Christie connection there. But yeah, and the way he's operated since his first term is he tends to do one for the right and one for the middle or the left. He's always that's the biggest challenge of his time has been to be a governor of New Jersey who can appeal to conservatives while staying afloat at home.
It would seem, Mark, that Newark presents a potential opportunity for the governor to say, look, here's my urban agenda at work right here. And he could have helped Mayor Baraka a lot more than he decided to. Why so much Camden and not so much Newark?
It's an interesting story that Christie always tells about, hey, I was born in Newark. I lived the first 6 years of my life here. My father worked in an ice cream factory in the Ironbound.
Right.
But when it comes to actually helping Newark, when he came recently to talk about his drug policy initiatives, at the same time he didn't address the major educational problems that are taking place in Newark, including the One Newark school reorganization plan put in by Cammie Anderson, who he put in place as Newark school superintendent.
He loves himself some Cammie Anderson.
He does, but Newark doesn't love Cammie Anderson back.
Yeah.
And if that issue got addressed in terms of Newark, urban residents of the state would look at that and see, and potentially his national audience would say, he does have a concern for urban issues, sincerely.
Yeah. Matt, I mean, you say he's running. Everybody assumes that he's running. Anybody who follows him sees that everything that he does is presidential in scale in terms of the production and the visuals of it. So, but you think he's going to stay on as governor as he runs, or?
Yeah, I keep fluctuating on that one myself. People talk about an SEC rule that will prevent some Wall Street contributions, but I think he can make it pretty deep into the primary without resigning. And right now, the way I feel about it is he probably will. I think if he gets the nomination, he definitely won't stay on. But yeah, if you were to ask me as a betting man, just in my gut, I feel that he will not leave immediately. Probably to the chagrin of Steve Fulop, Steve Sweeney, and Phil Murphy, and all those other guys.
Yeah, that's something I wanted to get into because if the governor decides to leave, whenever the governor decides to leave, it's going to start this chain reaction that really has already begun of people who are going to want to be his successor. And the most interest, at least right now, is on the Democratic side, where you have Steve Fulop and Steve Sweeney. Steve Fulop, the mayor of Jersey City, and Steve Sweeney, the Senate president, and Phil Murphy and others who are looking at it. How would you handicap that right now? Because nobody knows Sweeney north of Trenton, and nobody knows Fulop south of Trenton.
Right, and I mean, Phillip's only been mayor a year.
Yeah.
So he's seeing he's whether it's through him or not, he happens to be mayor of the city that is the absolute hottest thing in New Jersey right now. That's building and developing just so quickly, and you see the unemployment rate go down. Whether or not that's attributable to him, that's something he can work with. But I mean, keep in mind that Sweeney has huge labor support. Despite what he did in his fights with the public workers unions, the private sector labor unions are locked up behind him already. I mean, was it the building trades just at their convention a couple months ago put in a resolution urging him to run? It's all but saying, we're behind you. I mean, he's one of them. So I really couldn't give one person the advantage. I would say anyone who, if I have to give someone an advantage, I mean, Steve Sweeney has George Norcross on his side, and that's a pretty big advantage right there.
Is that something that, like voters, I mean, they don't know about South Jersey and North Jersey and the rivalry between the two. They see these candidates who are endorsed and supported by and funded by these factions in the state. Do you think that translates to voters?
I do think that the emergence of Phil Murphy could express the desire for voters to have an anti-faction candidate. People get tired of the North's champion Fulop and then the South's champion Sweeney. They're looking for somebody else. So who that somebody else is going to be down the road, hard to say.
And I would fully agree with Mark, except for the whole thing about former very wealthy former Goldman Sachs executives. There's a little bit of baggage there.
Right. He was talking about John Corzine, but these are two different guys. I've never talked to Phil Murphy, but they're
very
personalities.
Different.
They're extremely different. He is apparently Mr. Murphy, although some people accuse him of having John Corzine disease, being a wealthy Wall Street exec trying to get into politics. Apparently,
he's also personality.
Quite personable.
Yeah.
Quite the personable Boston Irishman.
Which, when you're in politics, personality evidently counts a little bit. So, Matt, what do you make of this this three-headed monster of North Jersey mayors, Steve Fulop of Jersey City, and we should say in terms of full disclosure that I live in Jersey City and Matt lives in Jersey City. I don't know if you want anybody to know that.
That's fine. There's 250,000
Yes,
of us.
right. Yeah. Steve Fulop and Ras Baraka and Jose Torres of Patterson. Is it all just about making these three cities work better together, or is Steve Fulop saying, "Hey, here's a way for me to position myself to run with a north access"?
Yeah, I don't doubt the second option.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no reason it can't be both.
Yeah.
Certainly, among those three cities, Jersey City right now is much better positioned economically than the other two. But, getting a unified North is going to be extremely important for Fulop.
A unified Newark.
A unified North Jersey.
Oh, North.
Yeah, just okay. for because North Jersey is so fractious compared to the South, which is really, one guy down there who's calling the shots. So, I don't doubt for a second that it's all about that. And I think you're starting to see more efforts at North Jersey cohesion.
Mm-hmm. Is it too soon for Fulop, do you think? I mean, he's been involved in Jersey City. He was a councilman for 8 years, activist before that, and ran for Congress, whatever. But are people going to say, oh, do your first job?
There is something to be said for that. A lot of people criticize Cory Booker potentially for not fully focusing on his job as Newark mayor before he went to higher ambitions. But at the same time, in New Jersey politics, it is never too soon to build relationships between the mayors of Jersey City and Patterson and Newark, where I proudly live. It has 280,000 people. Right. Thank you very much. If so far it appears that the cities are not going to be getting much in transitional aid, as we've seen recently from Chris Christie, I think cities like Jersey City, Newark, and Patterson have to stick together to try to get things done. They're not going to get the help from the state. The state is broke, and politically it may not be on the agenda of those who run Trenton to give them that help.
There is no money, right? I mean, Newark asked for 30, got 10, and I don't know how much more there is to pass around.
Pretty much.
There's not a lot, and complicating things even more is if the judge decides that we've got to give these pension payments back that the governor skipped, then we're really in trouble.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So are we ever going to see, do you think, Cory Booker and Ras Baraka walking down Broad Street saying, hey, this is my buddy?
I think the relationship is a bit more amicable than people anticipate. There was a lot of, when Ross was kind of leading the opposition on the Newark Council, I think the relationship was different. But now they know that there's ways that their alliance now could benefit them going forward.
Matt?
I'll just defer to Mark on that one.
So, no Joe D for governor, you don't think?
No, I don't think so. I think it would just be too difficult for him, especially after Christie.
Mostly because of in the primary.
Yeah, the primary.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, that's going to do it for us tonight. Thanks for all of your calls and comments and tweets. Keep them coming. We certainly appreciate it. Politicker's Mark Bonamo and the Star Ledger's Matt Friedman. Gentlemen, thank you very much. And, of course, Mayor Ras Baraka for joining us every month. Newark Today is a production of WBGO News. Our executive producer is Doug Doyle. On the phones tonight was Jim Cromaldi. David Talixon is running the board for us tonight. Our producer, as always, is the boss of the show, Julie Dario. You can hear and see this and all other Newark Today archives online at newarktoday.org. I'm David Cruz. Join us again next month for another edition of Newark Today. Till then, have a good night, and I'll see you on NJTV.